Hi everybody, it's John back again with another model inbox review. Today there's probably going to be a few subscribers out there that will probably want to see this video right the way through because they're Matchbox model lovers. I myself are very much so a Matchbox model lover, and they have a very special place in my heart. And even though this kit is actually a Revell kit, it's not actually a Revell kit in the box, it's actually a Matchbox kit in the box. We're looking today at HMS Ariadne. We'll start with the boxing history as we usually do. HMS Ariadne as a model was released in 1976 in 1/700 scale by Matchbox under the PK number 61, and this was actually the first PK numerical ordered ship that Matchbox released. Well, I'll be building the Matchbox kits and doing the reviews in numerical order in their respective categories, and this was the first kit in the ship range. I can't remember what colour range this kit was. Can't remember. But an interesting thing about the Matchbox kits, obviously being two colours, is that they're also waterline models. This is an image of what you got. There we go. It's actually part of the original. I think it was part of the original purple range from the ship range, because the purple range also went with the aircraft as well. But that's definitely a purple sticker on the end of that box, isn't it? The kits are actually in two colours. You had a very dark slate grey and a very light, almost light aircraft grey. And that is the instruction leaflet that you got with the original Matchbox kit. And when you see what you get in the Revell kit, you can see from these two sprues that the kit is definitely a carbon copy of the Matchbox model. I'll even show you the PK numbers that are still on the sprues. So that's the sprue colours that you got. It was light grey and dark slate grey. The kit was released also by AMT. I think these were mainly geared towards the American market, and they were actually an Abdil class mine layer. And HMS Ariadne was released by AMT in 1977. It's exactly the same kit as you got with the Matchbox model. So these are also quite easily obtainable, even on eBay in England. You can get these quite easily, no problem whatsoever. Matchbox simultaneously released their reboxing of the Matchbox kit in 1977. The only difference between this boxing and the original boxing is basically the way that Matchbox fell into a different style of logo, and the information was a little bit smaller, I believe, than the original boxing. So 1977, and then you have the release that Revell Release now. This is actually a carbon copy of the original Matchbox kit, HMS Ariadne, and it's in the famous blue boxings that Revell Release now, and this is the subject of the kit that I'll be doing today, the Revell Release, but it is actually the Matchbox model. We'll leave you a nice image there of HMS Ariadne. This is a picture of her in Scarpa Flow. I think this photo is actually available to view in the Imperial War Museum, and the ship, I believe this was just prior to D-Day, where the ship would have been, she would have been one of the anchored ships that would have been sent out, as a support ship, but I think Ariadne wasn't required, so she stayed in Scarpa Flow, and because of that, she was never painted up in the massive guise that was given by HMS Ariadne's Revell kit, but the paint scheme that comes with the Revell kit is actually the ship. I think it was the paint scheme that was 1943, but this was removed during a minor refit of of armaments upgrades and things that happened during World War II. We'll just palm the camera down very quickly to the picture I've got of the Revell kit. And there she is. A little bit of bad weather going on outside. I hope that's not going to upset everyone. This is the Revell kit that you can buy in the shops. It's quite easily obtainable. It's on general release, and you'll find it in your model shop from time to time here and there, the local store. end opening box. I'm never a fan of end opening boxes, but Revell, unfortunately, they only do end opening boxes. There's nothing you can do about it. And we'll do everything in the usual fashion. I'll just put the sprues there. You can see the sprues. It's exactly the same as what you got with the Matchbox kit. Exactly the same. There we go. So we'll have a look at those in a minute. We'll just have a look at what you get generally with the kit. There is actually a transfer sheet in here somewhere as well. Can't remember where I put it. I think I've put it in the instructions. It's a bit stupid of me. Normally I put them in that little way slip. No, they're not here. I wonder if they're actually still in the box, because yeah, they're still in the box. There we go. So let's put this all in order so you can have a look at it in the correct order. You've got a little slip here which is teaching your granny how to suck eggs. Safety advice. It's a safety advice sheet. I actually think they put this in just to cover their arses, just in case somebody sues them for getting cut or they've drunk some thinners or something, but it's basically all the safety advice that you do when modelling. The instruction leaflet, a little bit smaller than A4, but quite a bit bigger than A5. Shows you a picture, typical fashion for Revell, shows you a picture of the model built up. This is exactly how the kit should look when it's finished. As I said before, it's a waterline kit. Yeah, quite nice. There's some information there on the top in German and British for HMS Ariadne, with some background history and some stats information there. And then you've got some general instructions for build, that's in German and English as well, with the keys at the bottom showing you how to do things, this, that and the other. And then you've got an instruction key plan with different keys there that show you how to do things, when to do things, how many times, how long to leave stuff to set. Yeah, teaches granny how to suck eggs if you've built kits before. And then you've got on this side a paint instruction. And this particular kit is another one of those where you have to mix two different paints together, 90 to 10%, which is colourway C. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Another paint parts plan, which I'm a great fan of. I've always loved parts plans. They're brilliant for me because my eyesight is not very good. I have to have glasses on, and sometimes I can't see the parts numbered on the sprues, so I refer to these parts plans just to make sure that I'm getting the right parts out. Basically the kit builds in 16 steps. So yeah, quite a few different steps going on here and there, but I think the steps are actually in pretty much the same line of fashion to the original Matchbox instructions. Section 1, you're basically building the hull and the deck and the underside of the hull at the waterline level. Section 2 and 3, you're building the main armament and the secondary section main armament. And section 4, you're building the major stack, which is the middle stack, and section 5, you're building the two smaller stacks. For people who don't know what a stack is, it's a funnel. Ariadne was an Abdil class mine layer, light cruiser, and she was called a triple stacker. Section 6, I believe, is the rear superstructure, which you build on two risers with the upper deck there and a couple of fittings. And then you've got section 7 with some lifeboats, some of the anti-aircraft mounts, and one of the stacks there from section 5. And section 8, you fix all of that into place on the deck. I tend to put my superstructures in place just after I've painted the decks, and then you then paint the risers. But having this like this, you'd probably be able to paint the risers and then paint the decks, assemble those two together, and then put the whole thing together, and you'll get a crisper line. It'll look a lot better. Section 9, you're putting some small fittings. Some of them parts look very, very small. We'll have a look at those on the sprues in a minute. Not sure what they are. They look like small anti-aircraft mounts and maybe some lifeboats and some air conditioning horns and whatnot. Section 10 is the forward superstructure with the bridge part there, part 18, and then section 11 and 12 you're basically putting fittings together and the forward stack onto the rear of the forward superstructure. Section 13 you're putting the middle stack in place and that fitting there in the middle, and section 14 you're putting some more fittings onto the forward superstructure and the main armament. Section 15 is basically just finishing off the davits and lifeboats and some bits and bobs here and there. In section 16 you're putting the masts in place and finishing off with one of the flag poles on the rear end there, on the stern, and a couple of davits to the last remaining lifeboat. And then you've got the colourway. Now, the colour guide, section 17, it's another one of these colour guides that I am not a great fan of these, because they're basically shades of grey. And although this one, it's not so bad because the colours are actually properly ID'd with their appropriate letters to show you in the paint guide what colours to paint everything. It's still a little bit confusing as to which colours you put here and there if you're not used to this type of thing. But I do like the fact that they have clearly ID'd all these colours in the correct place and formed them up. But this, I must stress, I think this is 1943, before the ship was laid up at anchor in Scapa, prior to, was she going to go to D-Day, was she not going to go to D-Day? And she didn't go to D-Day, she wasn't involved in the landings whatsoever. So if you wanted a ship based on the D-Day landings and how she was in 1944, she was predominantly light grey. But these colours were utilised quite heavily in her Force H role when she was operating between 1942 and 1943 and early 1944 in the Mediterranean, in her supply support role and mine laying role. And these ships were very, very fast. They were very, very important key ships in the Royal Navy, and they should be remembered as such. So that's the instruction leaflet. It's quite self-evident. There's not an awful lot of problems there. You've got a flag sheet, a paper flag sheet with lots of different flags there from different nationalities. There is a Royal Naval ensign there, which you could fly from the rear stack if you wanted to, or you could put a white ensign, which you get. You've actually got a Royal Naval ensign here, and you've got a red ensign here, which are both these flags, and this flag, which is a white ensign, which is on the transfer sheet. All three of those flags were used by the Royal Navy, and also there's the name Ariadne there written as well, which I think goes on the ship's stern towards the rear end of the hull. I'm hoping that's going to come into view. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. There we go. But the transfers in this kit are typical of Revell transfers in this era. They're really good. Crisp, crystal clear backing film. Brilliant. Very pleased with those. So let's put those away so I don't lose them. And then we'll have a look at the sprue. Now then, there's two sprues. We'll have a look at this sprue first. I'm not going to go for Dantic into the kit's detail. The kit's detail actually for 1/700th scale is pretty good. It's not bad. It's I wouldn't say it's as good as HMS Manxman, the other Abdil class ship that you can get from Airfix, in similar scale, 1/600th though, a little bit bigger, but she is smaller, so you wouldn't expect the detail to be so as good, but it's not bad. It's pretty good. The actual upper superstructure's there. That's the rear superstructure. That's quite nicely moulded. Quite impressed with that. And the forward superstructure, obviously you've got some other fittings to go on there, but that's quite nice as well. Yeah, that'll paint up lovely. The side risers, there's quite a bit of detail on those as well. That's quite good. Quite impressed with that. Let's put that out of the way and so you can see a bit better. And the small fittings and the small parts on this kit are really crisply moulded. There's absolutely, well, that's not true. There are a couple of parts on this sprue with a very faint amount of flash. There's that bit of flash there on that part there. Can you see that? Tiny little bit of flash there, and there's a little bit of flash on that riser there. But nothing that can't be sorted. But the small parts look really crisply moulded. I'm quite impressed with that. The hull on this ship is also quite nicely moulded. not a huge amount of portholes, but the portholes seem to be regimental with the photo I'm looking at there on the computer, so they seem to be quite good. This part here is the underside of the hull, which the kit will sit on, because it's a waterline model. I've heard a lot of reviewers say that this kit's masts don't look as crisp as they could be, but I'm looking at that. I mean, this is 1/700 scale, and that's not bad, is it? Could have been worse. You know, I think the small parts on this kit are quite nice. There's two cranes there. They look quite nice as well. Yeah, they look all right. And all these small fittings. The parts are quite nicely moulded. They're quite nicely crafted. I'm quite impressed with that. So that's the parts. I'm sure you'll agree that, you know, for such a small scale model, they're not bad, are they? And we'll put everything back into the box because I don't want to lose anything. God, if I lost a part in this, Revell would laugh their head off. Yeah, £6 for a small part. Yeah, we'll send it, no problem. Anyway, so that's the kit in box reviewed. We'll just go through the gump and just read through the gump so I can close this video off. The model we're doing an inbox review on today is the Revell HMS Ariadne. The kit is moulded in 1/700 scale with a serial number of 05134. The Matchbox serial number was PK61 and the kit's release date was 1976. There are decals for one version of the ships, which served with the Royal Navy in 1943. The kit's dimensions are 7.5 inches long, 0.75, which is 3/4 of an inch in beam, and 2 inches high to the tops of the masts. There are 76 parts in total on 2 grey plastic sprues, and the options and costs, there aren't that many, obviously. In 1/700 scale, the Matchbox kit of HMS Ariadne, what I've done with the options and costs is I've not just included the Ariadne as an option, I've also included all of the Abdil class triple stacker cruisers in all the scales, but there aren't that many, I'll be honest with you. HMS Ariadne from Matchbox is a 2-star rated kit from the IPMS community. They quite like the kit and its detail isn't bad. But they do find that some of the mast detail and some of the small fittings are a little waxy, so they say. They're not as sharp as what they would like them to be, but as I said before, the kit is 1/700 scale, and I do think it does fare quite well with some of the other options of ship kits that you can get from other companies like Fujimi and Aoshima, Tamiya and the like. The kit is also available as a rebox from Revell as HMS Ariadne, and that kit can retail for as little as £6, but it usually retails in the shop for about £11.99, about £12. There's a company called WSW who build HMS Abdil, and she's a resin cast, full cast ship with very few parts in her. The majority of the ship, including all of the stacks and the superstructure, are cast in with the hull in one piece, and this model is actually quite detailed and the community like it a lot. The kit is retailing for about £27 to £30 and it's not very easy to get hold of. In 1/600 scale, Airfix did HMS Manxman. That kit is quite liked also by the community. The kit retails for anything between £18 and £25, and it was also released as a twin ship model kit with HMS Suffolk, and that kit retails for anything between £25 and £40. In 1/350th scale, you can get this kit as a multimedia option from Atlantic Models. HMS Abdil is available as a resin, PE and white metal kit, 3-star rated by the community for £100 to £120, and White Ensign's model, which actually has the edge on the Atlantic Models according to the IPMS community. This kit is resin, PE and turned, as well as white metal parts, for £100 to £130. And there's also a model from Dean's Marine who build HMS Manxman in 1/96 scale. This kit, believe it or not, is plastic sprue, PE, white metal, resin cast, and it's got wooden parts as well. The kit is absolutely amazing. I've seen pictures of this model made up. It absolutely looks fantastic, but it has a very high price of £350. and that's if you're lucky to get it for that price. But I must stress, this kit is one of the best models I've ever seen of a Royal Naval ship in any scale whatsoever. It's absolutely beautiful. Conclusions. Like all Matchbox kits, Ariadne is a waterline kit, and so it would be good for dioramas, but the detail and the quality of this kit is not as good as even the Airfix HMS Manxman. The resin and white metal kits look really nice, but they should be in a larger scale. As far as the Revell Matchbox HMS Ariadne is concerned, I would recommend it as kits for fun and for the younger generation or novice builders, but be aware of the really small parts in the Matchbox model. All of the large scale ships have really good reviews, and the Airfix has the edge over the Matchbox model for smaller scales, but the Matchbox HMS Ariadne is a fun build and often recommended by pro modelers. If you fancy something a little different to all the Bismarcks and HMS Hoods out there, then have a bash at this little light cruiser from Matchbox / Revell. It's not a bad kit at all. So that's the inbox review for this kit finished. I hope this video has been of some use. Thanks for tuning in. If there's any comments you want to make or questions you want to ask, please pop them in the comments. I'll try and get back to you as quick as possible. As I said before, thanks for joining in, and I'll see you for the next video. Thanks for now. Bye-bye.